I'm going to do everything I can to speak up loudly, and Joe's going to help me out by covering a little bit of the wind sound with his hand, and we're going to go from there. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you so much for joining me. As you jump on, just please wave and say hi. And even as you come back to the replay of this later on, because maybe you're out already doing things with your family today, either with your mother or you're the mother at the party. We're looking forward to that as well. We're about to head out here in just a few minutes and enjoy some time with our family. But if you would just drop in the comments at any time that you join us, either during a replay or right now, and just say hi. And then, of course, always remember that I put my recordings up on my YouTube channel. So if you'd go over there and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would really help me out. Now, I'm just super happy to be in the backyard again today. We spent some time over the weekend, over the last few days, really cleaning up our backyard and really, and I put in the title today, Create Purposefully. And we talked about very much the idea that a backyard garden has the ability to really create for very specific needs and to create microclimates, small spaces, comfortable spaces for you, not only you, but also wildlife to exist in your backyard, and for you to grow some beautiful vegetable produce. Now, the reason I talk specifically about creating with purpose, I wanted to show off particularly what the backyard looks like right now, and we're going to give just a much more just walking tour here in just a second. But as you pan out, please look at what we've done here, right here. So you can see that this whole area was pretty much grown up after the freeze. It had grown sunflowers all the way out to about here. That was all regrowth from last season. So it's like last season's crops coming back again. But then when we went in to clean, those of you that watch on a regular basis, you'll recognize there used to be a tree right here. The tree did not survive the freeze. That citrus tree did not survive the freeze. Frankly, I don't think many of our citrus trees in our area survived the freeze. And so that's something for us to keep in mind about how to move forward with citrus in our particular area.
Yesterday was the day that we got rid of it.
We got rid of it, exactly. But then we also custom landscaped this particular area. Now, why did I leave it this way? Well, all of these sunflowers are creating a very, very nice microclimate for the different types of things we would want to draw into our backyard. One of those being, we do like the birds, and we live in a birdie area. We live in a part of the country where birds migrate and transition through our area very regularly. And so all of these sunflowers up here are doing two things. They're drawing those birds in, but they're also drawing in the other types of pollinators. And then in addition to that, sunflowers have a lot of necessity. They do a couple of things. One, they often will draw the aphids off of other plants. The aphids will stay focused on that. The ants can farm the aphids up and down. And so they've got their own life there, and they're leaving other things alone in your garden. Just try to make sure you keep them somewhat trimmed up off of your main garden space so that they're not creating a kind of warm, wet microclimate. And I'll show you a little bit of that here in just a minute when we go inside this other garden over here. They also are what's known as a phytoremediator, which means they suck toxins out of the air. And in an area where the wind is very high and we have a lot of industry around our area, sunflowers are very essential to helping us pull some of that toxin out of the air in the life that we're living right around our own home. They also, because of all of those little pests that like to come to what I call the cotton candy sunflower, pest-eating birds will hang out in my garden space, get a drink of water, and then they'll go and pick off pests in other parts of my garden. And the seed-eating birds have got their own crop now. So this is where we don't have to buy bird seed because we've already grown them a crop of their own birds as well, seeds as well. So you can see how we've got the water fountain around here. We've got a nice little protected area for the birds to hang out, a place for them to even land and stay protected right there while they check out what's going on over here. Keeps them off my tomato plants because they focus on these seeds and these flowers rather than the little red things that are down in the bottom down here, and kind of keep that stuff secluded and surrounded right there. Now in here, some of the things that are helpful with the sunflowers is how they actually help me guide my hoses. Now, one of the things I told Joe yesterday, leave these stronger stems here because as I pull around the corners, This helps to keep from running hoses over the tops of things. So there's all kinds of things in a permaculture style garden in more of a food foresting style garden that you use for your benefit. Of course, these were all gone after the freeze, but now I've got almost a jungle of which we had to do some control over. Now you can see on this fence line now, we've created a really nice trellising type of system almost of different types of sunflowers to help draw sunflowers into this garden. Now, some of the things I want to show you, imagine this garden just a few weeks ago, February, mid-February. March, April, and now here we are at about the same point that the freeze hit in May, and this garden was almost completely dead outside of a few cabbage heads, and now look at it, it's just crazily overgrown. And of course some of my snapdragons made it to the freeze as well. Okay, so here's some of that stuff I was talking about, keeping things trimmed up. This is something you want to keep an eye out for, and if you're starting to see a lot of that, that's the powdery mildew that will actually affect those are the pathogens you want to protect your garden from. So this area right here is really a little overgrown. It's too much. I need to go in there and trim all of that stuff out and let it go down to maybe one plant alone. But you can also see that my dill is starting to grow. I mentioned this before, the powdery mildew. You do want to cut this out. However, keep an eye out on your plants to make sure you don't have a little caterpillar on there eating that up before you cut it out, because the caterpillars are actually eating the dill right now. And that's going to be these beautiful monarch butterflies or these beautiful swallowtail butterflies that you will want around your garden, especially as the summer, as we get through the fruiting season, and all that's left in our gardens anymore is kind of the summer flowers and the okra and things like that, the roselle, those things that we're creating in our garden right now. But you can see this garden got very, very wet during that flood we had a couple of weeks ago, so it got kind of soggy. So this garden has really shifted again back to, you know, what this microclimate is about. As you can see, it's very overgrown. Go back and look at the February videos where you can see everything back here was brown. There were no leaves of green going on at all back here, and now it's completely overgrown again. So now I have this like definitely little warmer microclimate with a lot of opportunity for pathogens and pests to grow. So there's some things that I can do in here to try to clean this area up and give it a little bit more air now that it's got all this blockage and protection. And we'll see what happens with this garden as we enter into the summertime. We did go ahead and clean up and move all of our plants again. You can see that I've got lots and lots of baby plants that I'm still working to keep alive. Now going back this direction, you can see how the yard cleanup makes a huge difference, and you can tell that this is a whole other microclimate going on over here as well. Things to notice after the flood, my squash did get yellow. Now I'm not 100% certain whether I've gotten a squash vine borer. I probably have, kind of down inside there, but it seems to be continuing to stretch. And it's got pumpkins growing on it still. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let it keep doing what it's doing, and hopefully that will be okay. What happens a lot of times is you get too much water in certain areas, and this is what I believe has happened over here. And you can see the same kind of thing is starting to happen here with this vining squash, where it's got one vining kind of pumpkin type thing going on there, but it looks like it's getting a little bit healthier again as it goes back up and reaches further out. A lot of times that's actually caused by a squash vine borer that actually goes down into the main stalk of the plant, which probably happened when the plant got a little bit weak during the flood time, because squash does not like heavy water at all. So that's probably what happened there. But as long as the plant can keep growing further out and the roots are still strong, that plant will continue to produce some squash, and I may get a couple of pumpkins off that. Now, a lot of times your pumpkin vines, you're not going to get very many plants off of it anyways, very many fruits off of it anyways, maybe 2, maybe 3 if you're really lucky. So if you can get even 1 off of a backyard garden like this, it's kind of fun to just see what can happen with that. I didn't plant a lot of that type of stuff in this particular garden because my experience with this garden is it's pretty damp back here, and so I try to keep that minimal. I even kept my tomatoes pretty much out of the ground in this garden. Like you can see here, a tomato plant that is still in a pot. I have a lot of tomato plants that are in pots like this. Now out at the farm, I actually do have the plants in the ground out there. It's a lot drier, and I have a lot more of those vining watermelon, cantaloupe, squash, pumpkin, all of that stuff starting to really take off out there where it's a drier climate. So this is what I'm talking about creating purposely, knowing that each different space that you grow in actually is going to act differently. Even within your own backyard, each different space is going to act differently. So I could tell that this space was going to be a little bit different for growing compared to some of the other spaces. And you can see over here, I do actually have quite a bit of squash, and the squash is hung on pretty well. And the other thing that I will tell you is, without a doubt, in this yard, I have got to pollinate my squash. I will not have any squash. After I had my oral surgery again this past week, I didn't get out here very much, and I could literally see the squash not pollinated falling off compared to the ones that I had pollinated a little bit earlier that were strengthening. So I come out every morning and pollinate my squash. I don't have to do that at the farm. So that's a little bit of that creating purposefully, so that you know it's going to be easy for me to just run out here real quick. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those small yellow squash plants, as many times as I want to deal with hand pollinating until I've gotten as much squash as I want. And then after that, I'll probably just pretty much let it go. The other thing that we need to all keep in mind as we're transitioning through this next part of the season is, this is the time of year when your harvesting is almost daily. Like daily you need to go out and look at your okra. Daily you need to look at your beans. Daily you need to look at tomatoes, squash. They will set, and you have to pay attention to that, otherwise you'll lose them. This is when you start losing your tomatoes to the birds, because the birds catch them before you do. So you've got to pay attention to that type of stuff. So it's a daily harvest situation right now. In addition to that, keep an eye on trimming your flowers out so that your flowers continue to keep trimming. Right now, yesterday, the last couple of days, I had a massive harvest of flowers so that I could do flowers for Mother's Day. So bring yourself in a beautiful bouquet of flowers from your backyard, put yourself a vase on, that way your flowers will start setting again and you will have additional flowers to that. Some of the things that you need to start pulling out for seeds is like your cilantro. Go ahead and start pulling those plants out, getting the dried cilantro seed off of it. I don't think I have any that are in easy access right now. Get those seeds out, and if you're letting any of your lettuce go to seed, like you see that I've got a big iceberg lettuce right there, I'm gonna go ahead and let those lettuce go to seed. I've got a lot of lettuce going to seed out at the farm, and then I will begin collecting lettuce seed. Basically, once you get done harvesting your fruits, the last fruits that are going to set, as we start staying in the 85 or above temperature range, once our temperature stays in 85 or above, day or night kind of situation, the flowers stop setting fruit. So we're not quite there yet, but we're moving fast into that direction. And all of that being said, that's when things start to bolt and start to shift, and you don't have the same fruit setting season anymore. And so when that happens, you'll begin to shift over to collecting seeds if that's something that you're interested in doing. And it might be just as simple as collecting the seeds and throwing them back down in your garden so that you have a crop that comes up on its own. A lot of my plants come up on their own. Those of you that watch regularly know that I have a reseeding garden. All right, that is all I have for today. I hope you guys all have a beautiful and amazing Mother's Day weekend. Enjoy your gardens, enjoy your beautiful flowers, enjoy all the celebratory, beautiful, fresh produce you're bringing in for your family. And I hope that you have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Don't forget to check out dinnertabletalks.com. That's Joe and I's podcast, launches every Monday morning. See you soon. Bye, loves.